incredible. He was actually really fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Henry, can you say hi?
Yeah.
No?
No, not now.
Come here, buddy. So everybody, this is Henry, my son. Whoa, the star, really the star of the week here.
Maybe we can get him dancing later. I love it. So?
Okay, so hi, I'm Sarah Latz. This is my son, Henry. We're from FCB Chicago. Me and Henry pitched to FCB for them to send me and him to Cannes in support of working parents. And not only did they say yes, and here we are attending seminars together, but they opened up a working parent correspondent position for every year from here on out.
Wow.
Which is really fantastic.
Woo! Trailblazer.
So I'm really excited to be part of that change. Henry's been fantastic this whole week. We've attended some great seminars together. He's clapped along with everybody, so if you guys clap, I'll clap too. And we've had a lot of fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm Lisen Stromberg. I run 3% with Kat Gordon, and I also wrote a book called Work, Pause, Thrive, How to Pause Your Parenthood Without Killing Your Career, based on the amazing nonlinear careers that I saw many very highly successful women have, and said, you know, we got to rethink the narrative. And
yes,
you're a model of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like the theme of this week that I've learned is that it's really important to bring your whole self to work. I've talked to a lot of moms and dads, because dads feel this too. And that's just sort of the theme that they keep saying. If you're transparent about, you know, what you want and how you can be successful, then you will thrive. And you don't have to bring your child to every work meeting, of course, or every Cannes seminar. This is the PR stunt of it all. But why not just bring your child along with you if you go to a production or an event like Cannes, and maybe they can attend some things, or in between seminars, you can spend some really quality time with them. My husband and I have really enjoyed. Oh, you want to talk? Can you say hi? We've really enjoyed teaching him Frere Jacques in between sessions. Oh. And it's been really wonderful having him here, and so I think that it's just been so great. I'm so proud to work at FCB, and I'm so happy that they let me do this.
Well, we're beautiful bookends, because I left FCB 20 years ago because it was so god-awful to be a mother and a professional, and we have done quite a bit of research at 3% around integrating work life, what's some of the challenges, why are we seeing this huge female cliff happen? Usually around that 32-year mark, and a lot of it has to do with parenthood and how our workplaces are structured. We did a survey called What Women Want in 2015, and we asked how many of the women in our community, 38,000 members, how many of them are parents? And when the response came back that only 39% were parents, I thought, well, there must have been some data mistake, because about 85% in the US, college-educated women become parents. And then we did the survey, Elephant on Madison Avenue, a year later, 39%, completely different survey, completely different, metrics, etc., which tells us that there's something really wrong with advertising and the culture there, and it's actually an American issue and probably a global issue.
Right.
But so we wanted to actually start that conversation with you guys and talk about what is possible and what isn't still possible, and what we can do to change. Dad, you got him?
All right.
Bye, Henry.
And it's interesting that you say that, Lisen, because I have talked to a lot of parents since I sort of started this initiative, and a lot of them actually are, pausing their careers or downgrading their careers, and they're getting like special deals here and there from their jobs. So it's definitely not unheard of to integrate your work in life. But what I would love to see more of is that people just are more transparent about these situations that they've been able to get into, and let everybody know that it can be done, and for more agencies to know that other agencies are letting women and men balance not only parenting, but anything they love, personal life outside of work.
So tell them your story about when you first had Henry and how you were supported.
Absolutely. So I work at FCB now, but when I first started, I worked at Energy BBDO. Well, when I first started being a mom, I worked at Energy BBDO, and I went on maternity leave. And of course, I always loved working, and I always thought I would be a mom, and I always thought it would be really easy to balance both. It never crossed my mind how hard it was to do both. So went on maternity leave knowing I'd come back after 3 months and jump right back into it. And I actually was really excited to get back into work after maternity leave. It was great to talk to adults. I think that first day I wrote like 20 scripts and I was like, here you go, I'm so excited to be back. And then I just started realizing how hard it was to balance a really demanding creative schedule and a really demanding 3-month-old. And so about a month after I was back, I went to my CCO, Andreas Ordonez, and he actually, and I said, hey, I'm having trouble balancing it all, but I would love to try recruiting for a little while, and I would love to try awards management for a little while. And he totally was like, that's great, let's do it. You have, I was like, I have experience teaching, I think I'd be really good at like getting junior talent in. And he was like, let's do it. And so because he helped me, because I asked for what I wanted and what I needed to succeed, he heard how it could benefit him, and then he helped me balance that first year of motherhood. And after about a year of doing that, ironically, when most women have their maternity leave ending around the world, about a year, I got my feet underneath me and I said, hey, I would like to be a writer again. And I was able to get back into writing. And so, but I really will always be very appreciative to Andreas for that. And I also am very appreciative to FCB for sending me here. I asked if I could come and I showed how it would benefit them. And once again, they said, let's do it, which is great.
Tell me how you showed. Did everyone see what she did? You got to hear about this story. It's so fantastic.
So they had a competition for one person. The rule was one social media post to show why you would be a great on-the-ground correspondent at Cannes for FCB. And my initial thought, truthfully, was that's a great idea for non-parents. I didn't see how I could take more than a week away from Henry. Mark, my husband, is a fantastic supporter, but he travels a lot for work and his schedule is a little bit inflexible. And so I was like, oh, I can't do it. And then I was thinking, you know what? I wish that more parents could go to things like this. And I bet we're losing really good talent in the industry because parents don't seem to have equal opportunities sometimes for the best pitches, or just because they can't always commit as much time. It's very much an all-in, all the time kind of environment. And so it kind of just clicked. Ironically, I was watching The Lion King with Henry one weekend, and I was thinking about lions in my life, even though they might not be Cannes lions. And I was like, I should ask them to send us both in support of working parents everywhere. And we just made a real quick video. If I had known how popular the video was going to be, I would have produced it a little bit better. But I think that's part of the charm of it all. Henry's just kind of walking in front of me and playing with toys, and it was really fun to do.
It got a lot of attention.
It did.
It got my attention.
Yeah.
We were like, this is in. I love this. We've got to support this.
Yeah.
Part of the party.
Hi, baby.
So here's the thing. We're at this tipping point moment. In the U.S., 64 million millennials are going to become parents in the next decade. In advertising, as I just shared, 39% of advertising women are mothers. We also know from our research that many of the women in advertising are the primary breadwinners with their families. So, and yet they still have spouses who are in the workforce, so it's not as though they're all, have a stay-at-home parent.
Right.
So we're in this shifting dynamic right now, and I think it's going to be really fascinating. If we can't get it right, we're going to get it really, really wrong, not just for advertising, but for the American economy. Mm-hmm. We talked about this, right?
And so I read Lisen's book after she asked me to speak with her, and I literally inhaled it like oxygen that I needed. So if any of you haven't read it, it's actually incredible. I
did not pay her to say that.
She didn't. I think every person who wants to have a solid career should read it. But that part hit me the hardest, was that that was the kind of the aha moment for me, was that you're right, our economy truly does need men and women working for us to remain like a powerful country. And other countries seem to get that. You wrote about your friend from Sweden who she was like, why wouldn't my company support me? They want me to work. So
who hates the term working mother or working parent? That implies that you're not working if you're doing other things like volunteering your time or caring for children or caring for parents or whatever. We're always working. So if we're actually rethinking how that whole narrative and recognize that we do better as an economy, we actually are supporting these different priorities in our life, that's the reshifting that needs to happen, that isn't happening on a national level and isn't actually happening at the individual corporation level or agency or office level.
Absolutely.
So
I think that's so true. I think that it really is about whether what's important to you is parenting, or whether what's important to you is building motorcycles like your friend does.
Yes.
Or I have a friend who cares for her aging mother, and she's fantastic, and she does work, and it's a lot to balance. So it's really just about asking for what you want. Like if you want a day off to learn how to, or to train for a marathon every week, and it's really just about asking for what you want, being confident that your talent will still be wanted by the agency. I think that's what took me a while to learn, that I am good at my job and I do have a lot to offer, and so if I need something to be successful, I shouldn't be afraid to ask for that.
I saw two things in the research. I actually interviewed 186 highly successful women and surveyed 1,500 more. And there were some really powerful messages that we saw. One, that the vast majority did not plan to downshift or pause their careers when they had children, and yet the vast majority did. Only 11% planned to pause their career. 72% did pause their career. And we're talking about pauses, let me be really clear. I'm not necessarily saying they're going home. They might be shifting the job that they're doing because it gives them more, more time with their family or whatever. It's a sort of psychological putting it into the back burner, not the front burner, if you will. To me, that was fascinating, because what we're doing is we're individually compensating for a failed system, right? And if we individually are doing that, then we're negotiating individual solutions.
Right.
What was the other thing that I found fascinating is 186 women, the vast majority paused, and most of them actually weren't telling other people what they had done. They were either quietly, doing it on their own. They were being told not to share what they had negotiated, their private deal. So there was creating resentment. What's that? Everyone knows, right? Come on, hello, right? When someone's got a sweet deal, so like that pisses people off. It creates all this disengagement. So, we're kind of on this campaign of out and proud, people. Agencies be out and proud, individuals be out and proud, and let's all own how we're navigating it. The story you shared was fascinating to me. 3% does a lot of consulting and has a certification program, and we go in and interview employees. And I met a number of men, so let's be clear, men who had changed to various agencies so that they could have better work-life integration. Some because they wanted to be really involved fathers, but many because they had side hustles. Mm-hmm. One guy I interviewed, he did motorcycles. Yes. Another guy negotiated kind of a modified schedule because he actually made pinball machines, right? How cool is that? Mm-hmm. So we're seeing millennials navigate in a way that my generation didn't, but that we need to be as leaders thinking about what we can do, and as individuals thinking about how can we help our agencies and our companies think differently.
And a lot of the women and men that I've talked to who actually have either downshifted a little bit to pursue their passion, they actually have said that they have been far more successful in that time period since professionally since opening up their brain space a little bit to just to handle problems faster. I think that a lot of times it's easy to get into the monotony of something, and just taking a fresh look at it really does help you approach situations.
There's been so many great panels here today, and it's the past couple of days, and that's been fun. I saw one yesterday, and this amazing millennial entrepreneur said, no is information. And so a lot of us don't ask for what we need or want, or negotiate for what we need or want, because we're afraid to get no. Well, no is information. If you get no, you might get the answer of, this isn't a great place for me to be, and I need to go somewhere else.
Right.
So it's like owning the human capital, which is what you did.
I also think, but I do think there might be some part of having to be okay with no. If your values and what you want don't align with your company's values, it might be better to find that out, and then you can really go to a place where you can excel. But quite frankly, I have yet to have heard no when I've asked for what I wanted. Agencies seem very receptive to it. I just wish that more people knew to do it, and
Well, we've got two things going on. More women and men are asking for what they need, and more agencies are saying yes, but a lot are still saying no. And so we're in this transition phase. You're a trailblazer because you're one of the older millennials, right? Mm-hmm. So you're ahead of the curve. I think we'll see this change, but I don't know, maybe not. We've got some generational and attitudinal differences around FaceTime, right? And what productivity looks like, and you got to be present all the time, as opposed to the tools that the technical tools we have now, the technology that allows us to be in so many places and be productive.
Right.
And we have leaders who think if you've got a button share, then you're more productive.
Right. I think that will be maybe the biggest downfall of our agency world, is that people think that FaceTime is what's important, and really it should be the quality of the work that's the most important. And what you were saying earlier, the culture of your people, whether they're happy and love coming to work every day because they know that they're supported. And I also think it's really important for managers to be transparent about what they do. You know, a lot of them have passions outside of their work. And we need to stop with I'm sneaking out early for a client dinner. Like, see, you know, it's really, I'm going home for my son's soccer game, or I'm going to, manage my bar, which is a side hustle, or whatever it is. Just, again, transparency does seem to be the theme of the week, just to be very open about what is important to you.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. We're done.
But we love questions.
Exactly. We're kind of thinking we can get off our soapbox.
Yes.
Do you guys have questions, challenges? I know some of you are actually navigating this right now, Laura, and managing this in great ways.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Carissa, and I just kind of want to enforce what you were saying. So I have a 1-year-old.
To your mouth. There you go.
I have a 1-year-old.
Oh, congrats.
And thank you. I'm actually Swedish, but I chose to live in New York where I only have 3 months maternity leave.
It's really hard.
But I did go back to work, and it actually was a really nice break from the baby.
Yeah.
And I know in Sweden you're not taught that it's nice to go back to work, but because my Swedish friends were like, "You're insane! You can't go back to work after 3 months." It went fantastic.
Right.
It was so nice to get my brain back going.
Absolutely.
But what I did when I came back is I told my boss, I'm an executive film producer, and I told her, I used to work on these massive projects. It was $1 million shoots. I would have Stephen Curry underwater for 3 days. I would work, but I would do that for 80-hour weeks for 4 months. And I was like, I just can't do that anymore. I'm like, but don't mistake this for me not having still ambition. I'm like, I just want to grow in a different way. Is there something for me more operationally? So, after a few months, actually turned out that they were opening up a new department, and they moved me over there to build a production team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a perfect model of that, right? And my guess is in about 3 or 4 or 5 years, you're going to be ready to go on track and more engaged. And that's the thing that we saw again and again, is that this downshifting was a pause. And the individual has to get at peace knowing that they're shifting or downshifting, and not be fearful that that's going to ruin their long-term career. That was the kind of secret sauce. If you actually believe that this downshifting isn't forever. Now, look, it'd be great if you didn't have downshift. You actually had a workplace that didn't require that. But if that's what works for you, then own it is sort of the answer. Yeah. Hi.
Love everything that you're saying. I'm a creator over at Ogilvy, and I just wanted to say that I think I have 2 kids. They're 5 and 3, and it's a lot. But I do think that there's the period before having kids that I think that managers need to support. I had IVF with my first kid, and it's one of those things that I think that people just don't talk about culturally in general, and especially in the industry. I think it's a really, really important time to have support from your workplace, because I think even just hormonally, you get so affected by what you're going through. And I think that you don't talk about it in general, and I just wish that companies were more aware of what women are going through just to even plan to have a family. I think having the family part is one thing, but I think there's a lot of women who are like, this is difficult, and I'm going through a really emotional, trying time, and I think that's already taboo in culture, and I think that's even more taboo in our industry. So I just wanted to bring that up just to say, I have 8 women working for me, and I am super supportive, because I'm just whatever you're going through, I'm here for you.
So thank you for sharing. I'd love to kind of highlight a couple of things that she just touched on. One, there is real motherhood bias in the United States, in our deep culture. And here we are in Cannes, and we can discuss whether there's motherhood bias around the world, but we'll talk about US right now. There is deep motherhood bias. So what was your name? Della. If Della had gone to her boss and said, he or she might have been like, great, I'm going to support you, or maybe not, right? We don't know what kind of inherent unconscious motherhood bias we face. There's also kind of that we don't want to talk about mental health issues. Oh my gosh, there's a lack of stability. And then of course there's post breastfeeding. Hello, right? I wish I had. Ogilvy actually has a beautiful new 4 new nursing rooms. Oh my God, the closet I was in was not fun, ladies. Let me tell you, the bathroom stalls, not pretty. Sorry, that's bad image.
No, but it's so true.
Right? Yeah. So it's hard to do this, but I also want to highlight a third or fourth or fifth thing that you kind of also alluded to. If we actually had structures that supported us all, you know, the person who wants to run a marathon, the person who's caring for a sick dog that they're beloved, the person who's caring for a sick family, the person who's going through IBS, if we as collectively had a different mindset around that, around our humanity, boy, what a different world it would be, right? I mean, that's kind of the big theme.
Right. Just being kind and seeing people as humans and not robots, I think it's really important. Hi.
Oh,
Hi.
Laura.
Hi.
Hi. It's been so great meeting you and getting to know you, and I just think what you're doing is awesome. Lisen, I have a question for you. To your point of wouldn't it be great if everyone could be supported in their passions and bring their whole selves to work, what does the future of that look like from a corporate structure perspective, and how can companies really start to design workplaces, design financial support systems around that? Because that's some of the biggest pushback I hear, is that companies are set up to hire full-time. They get a budget for an FTE and they're not going to waste it on a part-time employee, things like that. So what are some of your thoughts?
Well, right, we're short-term thinkers. And in advertising, we have an attitude that talent is a commodity and that we churn and burn. And we're now realizing that, hopefully, we're beginning to realize that a churn and burn mentality is not going to help us, because if we don't actually keep the talent and if we lose them, we're going to have problems, particularly female talents in a time when we're in female talents in such high demand. If we're not doing everything we can to retain that female talent, it's bad for business. Let's just call it that. What we're seeing is, especially around the research with our certification and our consulting, fascinating research around what I call time mastery, which companies that allow employees to really own their time and yet hold them accountable for delivering, but aren't so focused on face time, if you will, are seeing huge spikes in retention and in engagement and in satisfaction. So there's something going on about shifting our mindset around this. So we're starting to see companies do things like have signature talent pools that are part-time workers, that are trying to keep these people laned, if you will. We're also seeing some amazing things. I actually had the pleasure of speaking at GTB, who has a return to work internship, as does Ogilvy. Y&R, sorry. And we're seeing this idea that, you know, if you pause your career or leave the paid workforce or leave the industry or whatever, you can actually return and make it a formal structure. And so we're seeing quite a few very innovative things happening. Now, let's also talk about ageism, right? If you've been out of the industry for a while and you come back in, there's an ageism issue. That's a whole other panel, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah. How much time do you have? We're out of time. Okay, one more question. I want to make sure we get this one last question.
Hi, how are you? I really love what you said about humanity. My name is Gail, first of all. I love what you both said about humanity, you know. And my question might spark some, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And that is, you know, we talk about what we want.
Can you put the microphone closer?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're having a lot of rosé over here, so.
we talk a lot about what we need more, you know, what women want to see and things like that. What I'd like to know is, what do you think about how women can better support each other? Because we have a classism. I'm just going to be straight. We have some racism, classism, and we pretend like even sometimes when we get to know each other, I'm going to help you, and all that, but we don't do it. So I want to know, see, for me, before we can get to all that other stuff, how are we going to bridge that gap in real support of each other, and how we're creating partnership with men, not like move them to the side.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Thanks, Gail. Oh my God, right? Snaps for that.
I agree.
So, look, do you want to tackle some of that? I have some thoughts, but
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, I think that could be a whole other conversation, the socioeconomic, significance behind returning to work versus not returning to work. So we won't get into that. But I do think that it's so important to support each other, because having diversity, have different classes, different races, having women versus men, having them all come to the table with a point of view is really what's going to excel the work. I mean, we can't speak for groups of people when we don't understand where they're coming from. So I think that that is the main reason we do need to support each other. But you're very right, it shouldn't just be all lip service. We actually have to put systems into place and programs into place to do that.
So I want to respectfully consider a different point of view, which is I think we're taught by the current construct that women don't take care of each other, and I would like to offer an opportunity to allow ourselves to care for each other. It may be that we're not inviting care. It's hard to say I'm vulnerable. It's hard to say I'm stuck here, I need help. It's also hard to say, okay, I hear you're vulnerable right now, I got your back, and I may need you sometime, and can we be partners in that? I think that takes courage, and it's really hard to do that. So there's a little bit of that engagement. I think men, what we're seeing, we have a really, really cool, if I do say so myself, what we call an ambassador training program that's, really intensive and thorough, that helps guys see their role as stakeholders in women's careers and in diversity. And we're seeing some real shifts in that, which has been very exciting to roll out this year. We haven't talked a lot about it, but we're doing more and more of that work. So we're seeing what role as a stakeholder in the business do we have, and then the deeper question of what role as humans do we have in caring for each other, and that bigger thing. In this day and age, in this time, I hear a lot about the mental health issues and the self-help we need to go through, and how emotionally fraught we are. And gosh, if we're all feeling that, what better way to sort of support each other, especially with all the suicides we're seeing. We need to sort of step up into some compassion. We need to listen to me. We need to. I'm hoping we can step into a more compassionate place.
Right. And taking the long view on that as well, like we've been saying the whole time. Like if you help someone out now, you just have to have faith that they will help you out one day when you need help too.
And be willing to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a bit of a pat answer, but I hope that gives a little bit of something.
Okay. I really liked your answer and the fact that both of you spoke about it's a construct that we are actually taught sometimes that we don't know how to come out of.
Right.
Absolutely.
Let's come out
It's time.
as supporters. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
It's an
guys.
absolute privilege. Go rock your world. Be a trailblazer. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been an